Hello, and welcome to Exposition, a podcast produced by the Division of Social and Human Sciences, Northeast Campus, Tarrant County College. Prepare to be engaged, enlightened, and informed. Today's topic:
Good morning. We are going to talk today about movies with historical perspective. I am Karen Wisely, Dr. Karen Wisely. This is, across from me is...
Oh, I'm Samantha Elkins, also an instructor of history here at TCC.
So the first thing we want to talk about is how reliable are movies in history?
Oh, gosh. That's a great question, just because. Can we say it depends?
Why, thank you. Yes, we absolutely can. Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you think, just off the top of my head, what do you think is a good purpose for movies, for historically based movies in a history class?
Oh, it's so hard because with a history class, there can be so many great visuals you can get from it. I love when there is those like really historical, accurate, at least moments in movies, because so many students enjoy watching movies, and it gives them a small story to follow. And in many ways, history is just storytelling. So I love it when there's like those movies that you can like reference in class so that they can dig their heels into and kind of watch something and get that visual experience, just because I know that for so many people, like it's one thing when I say something happened, or if you're reading about it in a book, or especially like a textbook, comparatively to then watching it on the screen and you're like, oh, wow, look at the difference.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I've often felt, just to give an example, the movie 1917 when that came out,
yes,
and the I guess complexity of the systems of trenches, right? I mean, because you can talk about trench warfare and everyone thinks you just dig a ditch.
Yeah.
Right? But there were there were levels and different areas that you could go into. And,
well, even if you go to a museum, a lot of times they'll like have a trench dug out, but it's like literally like a 6x6 foot square, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not when we're talking about trench warfare. That's
yeah. These people lived in those things for months and months and months. So, so I thought that was really a cool part of that movie, was just going into the trenches and seeing how elaborate and extensive that they were. And so when people ask me about that movie, I'm like, plot. But look at the trenches. Wow.
Well, and I love that you bring that up, because like I think about that as like setting. And one of the big movies I like to reference a lot in my class is Gangs of New York, which has so many historical inaccuracies in it. But the setting itself and how like gritty and dirty it is everywhere in New York, and the slum life and everything. And so especially when they like zoom out on the city and you're like, oh, it's just so gross and everything. That is incredibly historically accurate, and it gives you a total different sense of how people lived. And so, I mean, based off of that, we're going, okay, movies, these historical movies, it's not about the plot. It's not about the people. It's not about the events. It's more about the setting that's really important. So is that the most important part, or is it a disservice if they're completely historically inaccurate or accurate?
I don't think so. I think that even wildly inaccurate, historically based movies, and boy, are there a lot of those, serve some purpose. And to me, the most vital purpose that they serve is getting people interested in history.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I can't even describe to you how many times students have said, I hated history. It was boring. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, my God. You know, I think that it's anything but boring, and so any tool that we have in our bag to show them how interesting it can be is something that we should, I think, take advantage of. So there are all of these movies, and as long as they learn to watch them with a critical eye.
Yes, that's the important part.
And not just, it was in this movie, so this is how it went. That's, we want to definitely move people away from that.
And I hope most audiences today don't go, oh, this is completely 100% accurate when I'm watching this Hollywood film, because there's also an element, the movie wants to make money and has to pay its actors and everything and all the costs of making movies.
Yeah, and not to mention, I mean, there's inherently going to be some artistic license taken with these things, because no one was there like transcribing every conversation they had, and so there's going to be some, we don't know if Martha Washington told George I love you before he left or whatever. We just don't know that. We can assume it because they seem like they rather liked each other or what have you.
Yeah.
It's so there's some amount of artistic license being taken, and then there's just getting things wrong.
Yeah, but then again, just getting things wrong. One of my favorite things to do in history is be like, oh, so you were taught this in elementary school. Guess what? That's completely inaccurate. And that's like so much fun to me, going, oh, this is, popular perception of something that's just not correct at all. And so like it's almost more fun, weirdly enough, in a movie when it's terribly historically inaccurate, because you're going, oh my gosh, this is egregious, just how bad it is. But it brings us here to talking about
What would we have to talk about if not for historical inaccuracies of movies? Yes.
If they're all historically accurate, that's not near as fun on some level, but it's also important. So I had a great question on that. Like, where do you draw the line between historical inaccuracy for storytelling's sake and something maybe that's more potentially harmful?
Yeah, I think that's the important question. And I think that as long as what you watch makes you curious enough to dig deeper, and to dig deeper in sources that you can absolutely trust. Don't, for the love of God, please, do not just go to YouTube and Google something and take the, first 5 hits that you get, and that's gospel truth. It's not, you have to go to your colleges, your, government agencies and things like that have real data that they are using to explain what happens. So I think that, to me, the importance is to have the curiosity and to be able to understand where you should go with it. Ask your professors. My goodness, if you are at a college, there are professors around every single corner who most of us really love talking to students. So it's, something that you could come to our office hours. We are real lonely in there. And, ask.
Yeah. And if we don't know, we're always willing to look into it. We want to learn more about it. I love it when a student asks a question that I'm like, I'm not 100% accurate, sure on that. So I'm going to go look it up and find the right sources and find the good, dig your heels in and everything.
And I really love it when they bring me a movie I haven't seen.
Ooh. Yeah, because you watch a lot of movies.
A lot of movies, yes. Yes. On purpose. So, I don't know where the line is drawn, and I think, like I said, the really important thing is going into a movie not to learn history completely, but to to get an idea of it and then to go and search and find what the realities of it are. I think that's the most important thing whenever you're
fostering that curiosity and growing with it, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what would you consider the most inaccurate movie you've ever seen?
Oh, gosh. I mean, you could go for, like, the really, really obvious answer, like something like Inglourious Bastards, that, like, but they weren't even trying to be historically accurate. And so, like, I kind of like that trend where, like, oh, we're going to take something that's, you know, a historical setting, and we're not going to follow it. And we know we're not going to follow it. We're going to admit we're not following it. Or, like, I think of The Great, the series, how they're like, it's a mostly true story and everything. That it's like, yeah, no, this is not how it happened at all. But they're admitting it from the get-go because they know they're trying to entertain you. And it does make you more interested in it. So some of those ones that just, they're not even trying, but they don't make me mad because they're not trying.
Yeah, those are great. I kind of sort of enjoy whenever they don't let you know ahead of time that they're not going to be. And then it's just, you know, let's find out as we go along. Oh my God. So like Pearl Harbor. Let's say Pearl Harbor for just a second. And every time that I have a student who's like, when we talk about Pearl Harbor in class and they ask me about that movie, and I'm just like, my heart breaks a little bit. I'm like, no. Right. And another one that I think I've ranted about this a number of times. It's on Prime, and it's a series, and it's called The Underground Railroad.
Oh,
and it's based off of a book that won a Pulitzer a few years ago. Of course, I don't remember who the author was. But the book was suggested to me, and I started reading it, and it tells the story of an enslaved woman who is going to escape and using the Underground Railroad, and the first couple of stops that she went on were good, historically based, right? Yeah. And then, like, on the third or fourth stop on the Underground Railroad, the person who is the station house, the safe house person, takes her literally underground, and there's a train. And I was like,
oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. I really didn't expect that to come.
I know.
Oh,
yeah. And I think it's all, because it's a work of fiction, and it's metaphorical and things like that. But my heart sank because I knew that I would be fielding questions from students. Well, I mean, I don't know that many people have seen it on Prime, and probably that many people haven't read the book. But I'm just like, every time there's something about the Underground Railroad being an actual railroad, it's like, was it really a railroad? No, it was. Oh. So I would like for Hollywood, if Hollywood's listening, which I know they're not, I would like for them to please stop the madness. No more of that.
Though then that begs the question, was that Hollywood's problem, or was that the historians and like the people of that time, like, why did we name it that kind of thing? Because clearly then you get a very specific image that is not at all true to form.
No, but then again, being metaphorical is what they were trying for, I think. And it's like,
Did she die? It feels like a metaphor that she died. Like, I'll be honest, like she went underground.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. That feels like a metaphor for death or something. Maybe I don't know.
She went underground.
I have not watched this. I should give that disclaimer.
It's a great book. I haven't watched the series either because
just couldn't bring yourself to do that.
Well, I had other things to do. I had to rewatch The West Wing for the fifth time.
Yeah,
and that's important, right? No, I don't know why I haven't watched it. I also haven't watched, in case anyone is wondering, I haven't fully completed the A League of Their Own series that's on Prime.
Oh, I've heard good things about that. So
yeah, I'm about halfway through, and I don't know. It's I mean, it's not bad. It's not terrible.
Good to know.
So,
I was gonna say, if you ever are wanting movie recommendations, just go to Karen's office, because I guarantee you they're gonna have tons.
yes. I'm always willing to talk movies with anyone. The only exception is if I say something about an old movie and you say, what do you mean, like from the 1980s? Then I'm probably going to have a meltdown.
You said old. 1980s movies. I don't think of those as old quite yet.
Neither do I, but that literally happened in a class. I was like, you guys watch old movies? And they're like, yeah, we watch from the 1980s all the time. And I was just like, no. I can't even talk to you guys anymore, so...
that hurts.
yeah, it did. It left a mark. That's my exception to the movie rule. Don't call 1980s old.
Just refer to them by their decade, and you're pretty safe. Like, I watch movies from the 1980s.
Yeah.
And just don't call anything old or anything like that. There we go.
You can always use classic. That's a good word. Just not old.
Yes.
What other questions do you have?
I'm looking through my stuff.
Well, I guess we went worst. What's one of the better ones that you've seen?
Ooh, better ones. How about you answer that first? Because I'm like still thinking.
Okay.
What would you say is the best historical accuracy?
I think it's possible that it might be Milk. I thought that was really accurate, and especially there's a documentary version of Harvey Milk's. It's called The Life and Times of Harvey Milk, and some of the scenes are almost identical to that, so it's pretty accurate.
I unfortunately have not seen this, and now I'm going to be writing it down literally as we're in here, because I'm like, okay. And I knew that you had recommended that to me before, and I've just been like...
That's really good. So, yeah, I would say that's probably the closest to reality that I've seen.
Yeah.
That I can think of off the top of my head. But what about movies that aren't historically based? Like, I had a student who asked if in a series of movies that we're planning to do, where we talk about the historicism of these movies, that could we include Princess Bride? And I was like, I don't think so. I mean, I love Princess Bride, but...
Great movie.
My goodness.
I mean, there's some interesting things about, like, Princess Bride, because I then talked about that with my husband one night, because I was like, such a good movie and everything. And so we did laugh that, like, there are certain parts of that you can talk about in history. It's just not, it is a work of pure fiction. Yes. So sometimes, like, you can have things like in that one in particular, they reference all these different greats with how they're sword fighting and how they're fencing specifically. And they're doing these like specific moves that are actually very, very accurate for fencing. I do not know these moves or anything like that, but they reference all these individuals. And then the two nations, it's the Florin and Gildard, are actually like different currencies, different European currencies from previous time periods. So like they're taking these names and places and they're pulling them, and they're not, following exactly what they were, because obviously a currency and a nation, not the same thing.
Exactly. No.
But like it's pulling from those histories. And I mean, you see, I remember going on a tour with Harry Potter specifically. And there was a lot of things that she specifically pulled from history.
Yeah, she does. Yeah. And even the names of people. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much like inspiration from history, even when it's not a movie that's a historical movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to like look into the history without that, because there was some like crime lord that no one would say his name, and that's where she got the whole like he who will not be named.
Yeah. I like to also use certain scenes.
Oh yeah.
To show how things could have happened in the past, from different movies. Actually, probably the weirdest one that I reference in my classes is Santa Claus is Coming to Town. And I mean, it's claymation, for crying out loud, and obviously there's nothing real about it.
No.
But I use it as a reference when we're talking about the need for expanding markets for goods that you make, because it seems weird to even have this conversation.
I really didn't expect you to take an economics turn.
But the Kringles, these elves toys are hidden away on the other side of the mountain and can't get to the children who would play with their toys, so they just keep making the toys and piling them up in a giant pile in their backyard. And my question is that what companies would do? Heck no.
No.
They're not just going to be like, let's just keep making them, throw them in the pile.
It's generally not how capitalism works.
Yeah. So I bring that up to explain the tenets of capitalism, I guess.
Well, that's great, because you're like, so look at this. This is not historically accurate. And it's like, yeah, it's claymation. But, okay, let's look at the economics of it. That's what's not historically accurate. Never mind, like, all the other details.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I use a lot of references, obviously, in my classes to movies and other television.
We're going to start telling the economics professors here they need to teach supply and demand using...
Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I mean, it's right there. I don't understand. And, I mean, while we're at it, the sciences, I mean, there's the Year Without a Santa Claus and the Cold Miser and the Heat Miser. We got weather. We got
weather versus climate. We got to explain this. So I guess there's so much to be said that, like, movies, accurate, inaccurate, at the end of the day, it's more about, like, what do we take from them? What does it make us think about?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think that might be the place to end.
Yeah, that's a great place to end. Yeah.
Watch your movies.
Yeah. Look up the inaccuracies and be happy with the accurate parts.